Hi there. The Bible character that I relate to the most would probably be Jonah. And while he doesn't have the greatest story, I think that I have a lot of similarities in that God gave Jonah very, very clear instructions. He said, go to Nineveh and tell them about Jesus. And Jonah had it in his head that one, God couldn't choose him for that, and two, Nineveh, he wanted to go somewhere else. And very similarly, I have my own ideas of what I want to do, and they don't always align with what I feel God intends me to do. A perfect example of this is I recently graduated college. And I was very excited to be an adult and buy my own apartment and have my own house and all that fun stuff. And as the summer progressed and with everything going on in the world, it was very clear that that was not going to work out. And I kind of kept fighting it, and I was looking at places and telling my parents and telling my friends I'm moving. And then finally I just had to realize I'm not going to move. Everything going on is just not the right time. And that's kind of a hard decision. I think a lot of times we can get scared or nervous or be thinking too much about me, what do I want to do? And so it's best, kind of like Jonah, to step back and refocus and hear the word that God is saying to you and realize that he doesn't give you anything that he doesn't think you're capable of overcoming. While I may not be able to move into my nice apartment today, that doesn't mean I won't have one in several months from now or a year from now. No one really knows that answer but God. So, like Jonah, I'm slowly working towards focusing, hearing God's instructions, and adhering to it instead of getting distracted with my own wants and plans. So I hope that you guys are overcoming that as well.
The Bible character that I'm most like is Micah. The prophet Micah told the people of Samaria that God's judgment would come because of their sin, teachers teaching the wrong thing, and mistreatment of the poor. As Micah was warning the people, the Assyrians won the city of Samaria. God's people were taken captive. They had to leave their homes in Samaria, and the land was destroyed. Not good. But not everything was lost. God gave Micah a message of hope for the people. A light would shine brightly into the future, and there would be a time that the people of God would walk in light forever through the promised Messiah. There would be a time when God's people would obey God. How exciting! God is gracious and merciful towards sinners. He forgives us when we sin like the Samaritans did. He has always had an awesome plan to become best friends with you and I through Jesus. Because Jesus died on the cross, our sins can be forgiven. In Micah 6:8, Micah tells the Assyrians, "Know, O people, the Lord has told you what is good, and this is what he requires of you, to do what is right, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." I am most like Micah because as a follower of Jesus, I know right from wrong. I love my friends, and just like Micah, I warn my friends when they are doing something wrong. I remind them to be good, to seek forgiveness from God, and to ask God for help in doing right. Sometimes I do something wrong too, and I have to remind myself to be good, to seek forgiveness, and ask God for help in doing the right thing. Friends, do what is right, seek forgiveness, and ask God for help in doing the right thing. When someone is leaving someone out during a sports activity, do what is right. Ask the people to invite the lonely person to play. When someone is bullying someone else, do what is right. Ask the bully to stop. Don't be a bystander. When you're tempted to goof off during e-learning, do what is right. Stop goofing off. Ask God for forgiveness and ask God for help in focusing on your teacher. The Bible character that I am most like is Micah. Micah tells us that God requires us to do what is right, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. Friends, I pray for you that you will do what is right, that you will seek forgiveness when you sin, and that you will rely on God to help you do what is right.
Which character do I relate to most in the Bible? I think for me, I'd have to say Timothy. I think Timothy and I actually have quite a few things in common. One of the funny ones is that his grandma's name is Lois, and my grandma's name is Lois. I think another one is Timothy's probably a guy who likes to work out. There's a verse in 1 Timothy where Paul's instructing him on how to live. It's actually 1 Timothy 4, verse 8. And it says, "For physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come." And I love to exercise. I love playing sports. I love working out. I love lifting weights. And I think for me, like, I can really relate to wanting to get trained physically so that I can be like the best athlete there is. But Paul, when he encourages Timothy, he says, no, but godliness has value in all things. Like, physical training is nice for sports and stuff, but godliness, that's going to help you in tons of areas. And so I think I can relate to Timothy in that way. I think another way is Timothy grew up around the Bible. It says that he was familiar with the scriptures from a young age, from infancy. And so, I grew up going to church. And I think a lot of you guys can probably relate to Timothy too in that area, that you're pretty familiar with church and the Bible, and you know some of the right things to say and the right things to do, and it's just kind of like a thing that you're used to because you've grown up with it. I think another really powerful way that I relate to Timothy is he's a young guy, but he has a lot of aspirations. He wants to do a lot of things, and I know to some of you guys they may not seem super young because I'm out of college and stuff, but compared to your parents, like I'm not that old. But there's a verse right after that other one in verse 12 of chapter 4, and it says, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity." So even though Timothy is a young guy, like many of you, you're young, and a lot of people look at you as young people, but you can still set an example for others in your faith, in your conduct, meaning how you act, in your love, in your faith, and in purity. And I think for me, this is something that I aspire to, is to be an example for even people who are older than me. So you guys could set an example for people who are even older than you too, like high schoolers or people in college, or even like full-blown adults or your parents. Like, you guys can be an example for them as well. And so I think I can relate to Timothy in a lot of those ways, and I'm guessing a lot of you guys can too, in that he's a young guy. He grew up around church, and he has aspirations to do great things for God, and he loves God and wants to do great things for God's kingdom, and in doing so he can gain the respect of others by behaving rightly, by having a ton of faith and love for people. And so I think I can relate a lot to Timothy, and I'd say he's probably the person I relate to most in the Bible.